Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. And in this video, we are doing another countdown of my 100 favorite movies. This time, we are doing 40 through number 36 on my list. So, caveat, I accidentally made a mistake, and I put 2 movies at number 40. So, we're actually going to get 6 movies in this video for the price of 5. So we're going to say, I guess, 2 movies are tied for 40. Though it was really just a mistake on my part. I accidentally put 2 movies on that spot. So yeah, we're gonna get 6 movies, but still my 40 through 36. So got some big hitters here, some good comedies, some older movies. Pretty good group of movies here. And these are movies I absolutely love, of course. We're in my top 40 now, top 40 favorite movies. So hope you enjoy this here on Jason the Old Millennial. Hello everybody, hope everybody's doing well here on a Friday night. And yeah, I'm glad to bring you another video on my favorite movies and get to talk about my favorite movies of all time. This is thanks to Jackson from Horsetooth Cinema, who requested me to do this. Being someone who talks about movies all the time, of course I have my 100 favorite list. Anyways, I hear some people go, I can't make a list. There's just too many of them. And I'm like, I make lists all the time. That's my favorite thing to do is make lists. So I have no problem making a list. But yeah, so at number 40, we got 2 movies here. Like I said, I accidentally, through my mistake, when I was putting movies together on my computer and I was moving, and I would say, oh, I'm going to move this movie to this spot and then this spot. I accidentally put 2 movies on the same spot and didn't realize that when I printed it off. Anyway, so I thought, well, I might as well just keep these 2 movies in that same spot for right now. So the first movie I'm going to talk about at number 40 is Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. The first of this trilogy. I saw this in the movie theater when I was like, it's maybe a senior in high school or something like that. And it's funny, I knew nothing about Lord of the Rings. I never read the books. Didn't even know there was a book called Lord of the Rings. And then I find out that it's like a famous book. And I was like, wow, I had never even heard of it. And it's supposed to be famous. It's like the most famous like fantasy series, whatever, by Tolkien. And I remember seeing the trailer for it, and people were excited, like, oh my gosh, Lord of the Rings. I'm like, okay, why is everybody so hyped up for this? But I was like, it looks interesting. It looks like a fantasy movie with, fantasy elements like magic, and, you got elves and dwarves, all these different, species, and you got sword fighting, so I'm like, all right, this sounds like something I'm into. When I first saw it in the movie theater, I actually didn't like it. This is kind of shock. When I first saw it, I thought it was kind of boring. It was a little long. There was lots of just the 2 hobbits walking. I think that was my main thing. Was it seemed like a majority of the movie is Frodo and Sam just walking. And I remember coming out and going, gosh, this movie just too much walking. It's too much just 2 guys walking around, and I didn't quite get it. It wasn't until I got the extended edition back then on DVD, or I didn't have it, a friend had it, and I watched it just for fun. And I saw all the special features, and I started watching special features. And for some reason, I got into the movie more because I enjoyed getting to know the cast a little more. And then watching like the audio commentary was so fun. It's like the best audio commentary. There's 4 audio commentaries, and they're all really good. And I don't know, once I learned more about the behind the scenes and how they made it, I started really liking the movie, and I started enjoying it more. I started picking things out and going, oh yeah, I remember them talking about how they made this part of the movie. And I listened to the musical score more, and I came away going, man, the musical score is so great. It's like one of my favorite, by Howard Shore, one of my favorite musical scores of all time. And then I looked at it, it's like, man, the makeup, the costuming, the cinematography, the set designs, I didn't think that much about it all until then. And I was like, man, it's all pretty amazing how they did it all. Anyways, and so I've kind of grown to really love this movie. Of course, I'm having it tied at number 40 here. And I mean, the whole trilogy is a great trilogy. I'm a big fan of the whole trilogy. After that, I, of course, watched the other two in the movie theater. I'm pretty excited about it. Um, but yeah, I think, yeah, again, as a fantasy movie, it's like the best fantasy trilogy ever, and this begins it. Like I said, I still think the problem with the movie is that it does get a little boring at the first half of the movie. But I feel like right when they all come to, I think, Rivendell, and they pick the nine, people that are gonna uh, try to carry the ring to Mordor, that's when the movie gets really good. Like the second half of the movie is really good. That's why it's still this high on my list. Because I love all the characters that we get, like Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, um, now I'm forgetting names, but we get, of course, Gandalf's there, and then you get the Frodo and Sam, and I love Pippin. It's so funny, and Merrin. Those two are great together, and Boromir is great too, and kind of introduced me to that guy. Even though I've seen him in other movies, I then became a big fan of. I'm trying to think of his name now. Hoping I can see it here. Sean Bean. Sean Bean's so great. I mean, I've seen him so many things. So good. This is the first time I was like, wow, who's this guy? It's so good. And I realized I've seen him in like James Bond and stuff. But I mean, story is it's a great introduction to the story, and this whole story of trying to get the ring to Mordor to destroy it to kill Sauron. There's a lot packed in there, a lot of a lot of story packed in. I mean, but really, what gets it is that it's like the scene in where they go in the mines of Moria and they have to fight like those the goblins and the cave troll. That scene is so good as an action scene, really well done. And then it goes right into them meeting the Balrog and Gandalf fighting the Balrog. Oh my gosh, probably my favorite scene in the whole movie is the "You shall not pass." I mean, special effects are just amazing. Even back in 2000 when this movie came out, whatever, 2001 I think it came out. I mean, that's over 20 years ago and still holds up. Is great special effects. Um, and then the final kind of fight scene with the Uruk-hai attack the group, and Boromir has his great redemption. That was a great redemption arc that he had in the story. Anyways, and it does leave it on a cliffhanger. I think that's my other problem with the movie. When I first saw it, was like, oh my gosh, what a cliffhanger! Like I was disappointed, didn't feel satisfying. But of course, now I got the whole trilogy. I can go, okay, I get why they left it there, and we can continue on. But anyway, so needless to say, great fantasy action, storytelling. And it won't be the first time I'll talk about this franchise, but there's. All right, the other movie I have at number 40 is Inception, another kind of sci-fi movie by Christopher Nolan. It's my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. I'm not the biggest Christopher Nolan fan. I have Batman Begins and this movie in my top 100. But then a lot of his other movies have been pretty disappointing for me. But man, this movie, just the idea, the whole story idea is just amazing. Like, I love this whole idea of getting into people's dreams and being able to manipulate them through the dreams, and the whole dream world and how that's, fantasy kind of, anything can happen. And just the whole idea that, and then the whole idea that you can have a dream while you're dreaming makes no sense, but it's awesome. Like, I love that concept and idea. When they said a dream with a dream, I'm like blew my mind away. like how could you have a dream within a dream? But they do it, and they do it really well. Yeah, it's just an amazing story. I love all the actors here. Leonardo DiCaprio, such an underrated performance. Didn't get any Oscar nominations, but I think the movie got nominated for Best Picture and maybe Best Director. But DiCaprio should have been nominated for Best Actor. This is one of my favorite performances by him, and he was just killing it. Like, he's one of my favorite actors. Like, every movie around this time, he's like just putting in great work. So I loved him in the lead here. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's always a solid actor, I think. I always enjoy him. Paige, is good here. Marion Cotillard's great actress as well. Cillian Murphy, you got Cillian Murphy in a small part, but it's always cool. Always love seeing him. Of course, he just won an Oscar for Oppenheimer. Tom Hardy, first time I think I saw Tom Hardy in the movie, and this is like one of his more normal roles. He usually does kind of abnormal roles, but what a good actor, and he's really good here too. So I mean, and Michael Caine has a small part. Great cast. I think they do good, and the whole story between like Leonardo DiCaprio's character and his wife, his dead wife, Like there's some really good storytelling, some very good emotional storytelling there. And then just the very last like 30 minutes or so of the movie is this really great heist action flick. I think they set the rules up and the world up really well. Oh yeah, Ken Watanabe is also in here, another good actor. I love how they set everything up, and you kind of get there's something about Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and then you finally get his full story, which is a great reveal. And then as they're in this, they got into this guy's dream world, and they're trying to manipulate him to do something, and how that all kind of falls apart, and they have to try to find ways to fix it. And the fact that they're in the dream world, and then in this world, the guy's like driving a truck, and the truck falls off off of this cliff or whatever, and it's going in slow motion, and that's affecting the dream world. I mean, it's really cool how that all works out. Like my favorite part is when that happens, and then in their world, the world kind of turns upside down, and they're like in mid fight, and then they get all turned upside down. They're like crawling on, and they're like running on the ceiling. I thought that scene was so cool. I remember seeing that theater just being blown away again. I was like, what the heck? Like, how did they do that? That was such an awesome scene. And then I think it ends on a really good note, emotionally and everything. And it's supposed to be ambiguous, but I do believe it's a good ending. It's a happy ending for the Leonardo DiCaprio character. He kind of finally get over his wife, his wife who died, and also be able to go back to his kids and all that. But yeah, it's such a great movie as far as just story wise, and also just the action is really good, and keeps you on your feet the whole time. But yeah, I love Inception. Here again, my second movie, number 40. All right, that's my two movies to number 40. All right, to number 39, we got a classic comedy that I just dropped on the floor. That is Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where it falls out, so that's why it fell out there. And this is a Criterion collection that I've got, which is really cool. This is came out in 1964, Stanley Kubrick. This is by far my favorite Stanley Kubrick film, I would say. It's his only comedy that he did. He's kind of known for doing these kind of a lot of weird movies, I think. And I mean, this has a little strangeness to it as well. It's such a strange comedy, but man, it works so well for me. Like first time I saw it, I remember seeing it and just like, wow, I just get it. And I've seen some people watch it and they just don't get it. I guess it's very satirical, not to take seriously, but it's dealing with a serious subject matter. It's dealing with nuclear war. So it's a very serious subject, but yet they somehow find some comedy in there, which I think is great. And I don't know, I just totally love the whole idea behind the movie. I totally get it. I don't know how to say it more than that. If you don't get it, you're going to be like, I don't get why this movie's so good. If you do, I think you probably say this is one of the great movies, one of my favorite comedies. If you don't know about, this is kind of during the Cold War, and one of the generals kind of goes crazy and sets off, he gives codes to some planes that have nuclear weapons on them to attack Russia. And because they'll attack Russia, then Russia will attack the United States back with nuclear weapons. So it's starting this nuclear war. And so the president and all of his people are getting together, trying to figure out, what's going on? How did it start? How do we stop this? And they're in communication with Russia, like, we didn't mean to do this. And they're trying to get to the planes, but the planes think it's all a trick. So we get all these different, characters and these different scenes. And you got James Earl Jones, one of James Earl Jones, I think maybe first roles. So who just died just a couple weeks ago. So R.I.P. James Earl Jones, being in a classic comedy. If you didn't know, he's in one of the planes. But and this is definitely just a great cast, really. But of course, who shines most? Peter Sellers is so good in this movie. And I'm not a big Peter Sellers fan. I've seen some Peter Sellers movies, and a lot of times I don't think he's that funny. I don't really get his humor. But I get it in this movie. He's just brilliant. He plays 3 different parts, and he got nominated for Best Actor for a good reason. And this got Best Picture nomination, all this. But he plays 3 different characters, and all 3 characters are 3 different. He has 3 different accents, 3 different countries. He's got a British officer that's trying to convince this general to call off this nuclear war, and so he's got his British, usual British accent in there. Then you got the president. He plays the United States president, so he has an American accent as President Murphy. And then he plays Dr. Strangelove, the title of the movie, who's a German scientist who's paraplegic, who is an expert, I guess, at nuclear stuff. Anyways, and he's the most outrageous character. He doesn't show up till midway through the movie, and he's got this outrageous German accent that's hilarious. And that's my favorite character. So Doctor Strangelove is such a hilarious character. Just and the way he talks and the way, anyways, and his hands, he can't control his hands sometimes for some reason, and he has to stop his hand from moving. It's just a physical and just brilliance from Peter Sellers, I think. Definitely my favorite role of his. But yeah, it's so funny because it's about, trying to stop this nuclear war, but somehow they find these bits. Like, my favorite bit in the whole thing is the president on the phone with the Russian president or whatever, and him talking about, yeah, we did a thing, and you don't hear the Russian guy on the other end, you just hear the president's conversation. So you're just kind of in your mind thinking, what is the other guy saying? And I don't know why it works so well for me, but I love it. He's like, well, we did a thing, we got nuclear, whatever, and let me finish, Dimitri. And then he's like, yeah, all this, like, well, how do you think I feel? Did you ever think how I feel, Dimitri? And I don't know, I don't know why, but that phone conversation, so funny, one of my favorite scenes. But yeah, I don't know, I can't spoil more than that, but I think if you haven't seen it, give it a chance. I think it's a classic, very funny movie, Dr. Strangelove, number 39 on my list. All right, number 38, another classic from the 60s period, and that is Cool Hand Luke. This is, I think this is around the same time as Dr. Strangelove, in fact. This is somewhere in the mid-60s, 67 it looks like, so yeah, kind of mid to late 60s. Yeah, you probably heard of this movie. I mean, it's definitely one of Paul Newman's classics. It's my favorite Paul Newman movie. It's my favorite movie of the 60s, actually. I think I've done, if you go on my playlist, I've done like my top 10 favorite movies for each decade. And for the 60s, I had this as my favorite movie, if I remember right. So yeah, so obviously love this from the 60s period. Paul Newman plays Luke, who gets put on a chain gang, gets arrested, gets put on a chain gang. Chain gangs were really horrible. They're like, they're real. They're in the South, and they were notorious for being like really mistreating the prisoners. Yeah, it was a terrible system that luckily finally did away with it. But there's been a couple of different movies that I've done with chain gangs. Anyways, but yeah, he's part of the chain gang. He kind of gets cool with the other, first, like the one prisoner who's played by George Kennedy, who's kind of the big tough guy in the prison. He doesn't like him at first, but then he earns his respect, and so then he gets the guy who's kind of in charge of the prison, kind of on his side. I mean, as far as prisoners go, and then he kind of gets friendly with everybody, and everybody kind of looks up to him, and he kind of always looks for ways to, manipulate the system in a way that the guards don't like anyway. So he gets himself in trouble a lot of times with the guard and the warden and all that. And then he tries to escape. The last half of the movie is just him trying to escape it, and he escapes and he gets caught again. And then he gets tortured basically. And then you don't think he's going to try again. And then he tries to escape again at the end. So it's kind of him trying to escape this prison that's so horrible to him. Anyways, but Paul Newman, man, what a great performance. Should have won the Oscar for Best Actor. George Kennedy won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, in fact. He did a great job as well. Not sure who the director is of this. Stuart Rosenberg. I'm not familiar with, but man, I don't know. I just love the character. Luke is such a great character, and Newman just gets such a great performance. There's some comedy. There's some drama here. You really feel for the prisoners, in fact. Kind of rooting for them. Acting is just so good here, and the ending is shocking, but yet satisfying in a weird way. You got the famous line, "What we got here is a failure to communicate." Really one of the greatest lines of all time. But there's other stuff like I'm just, I'm just doing this for your good. Yeah, I wish you stopped being so good to me. You know, there's some great liners in this one, but yeah, excellent movie. Definitely recommend. Cool Hand Luke. Here at number 38 on my list. Number 37 is a movie that I feel like is underappreciated, and in fact, I've heard a lot of people don't like this movie. I loved it. Saw it in the theater, and that is Signs. And M. Night Shyamalan, it definitely gets a lot of he gets a lot of flack right now because his movies have done really terrible lately. And unfortunately, he got into this, man, he made some terrible movies right in a row. But he's still making movies. He made a movie just recently called Trap, which I actually really enjoyed. One of my favorite from him. He did like Knock the Cabin the year before. So he's still putting them out there. He's a great thriller director. Um, but this time he was really hitting. I mean, this came after like he did Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, I think, and then Signs. So it was a good 3 movie run where I felt like he was really doing some interesting things, and there's always these interesting twists in the movies. That's what he kind of got known for. And then he kind of went downhill after this, unfortunately. But I mean, this movie's so well directed. I think Shyamalan did an amazing job because I was on my edge of my seat the whole time. I saw it in the movie theater. Man, there's some jump scares in here that man really got me. I mean, because we got Mel Gibson, you got Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix, so good. This is kind of coming off of like Gladiator and stuff like that. He was starting to get really good at this point. Also, good performance by Abigail. Is it Breslin? I always forget her last name. He was a great child actor as well. I don't have her name in here, but she's really good. And then there's a Culkin kid, also really good. But yeah, it's dealing with aliens, and they think, something's weird's going on, crop circles and all that. And they find out it's aliens coming to invade, and so it's a very suspense thriller because there are times when they see aliens, like he sees an alien in the crop field, kind of real quickly. I mean, oh my gosh, the jump scares were so good. I was in the theater and man, I jumped, and the images were like, oh my god. And what I love about this directing of this movie is there's so much done without you seeing anything. There's so many scenes where like you're just, you're like in a cornfield and you hear something, and the guy's like looking around like, oh my god, what is it? And the camera just stays like one spot for a long period of time, and the whole time you're like, is something going to happen? Something going to happen? And then maybe something happens really quickly, and you're like, oh my god. He does such a good job with that, just keeping the suspense by keeping the camera on something for a while before something happens. I thought it was brilliant, the cinematography I think is brilliant. The acting's really good. It's very funny too. There's some really funny lines in here. Some really emotional moments as well because the family's dealing with the mother slash Mel Gibson's wife passed away. And as we have a lot of flashback scenes to that, which are done really well, especially towards the end. I love the flashback where he says, swing away, stuff like that. So great. Because they do come across the aliens and have to board their house and try to keep the aliens from getting in. Very intense sequence there as well. What was I going to say? I love the whole story arc of the main character, Mel Gibson. He was a preacher. His wife dies in an car accident. He then quits being a preacher. He kind of quits being a Christian and stops, believing in God because of this horrific, tragic accident. But then through the course of the movie, he kind of gains his faith in God again. So as a Christian, I really thought that was especially the ending, because he really kind of trusts God again, and he hadn't for a long time because of this alien invasion. So it's like this alien invasion is a terrible thing, but at the end, the family's actually better at the end. So this alien invasion actually kind of helped him get his faith back in God. So I thought that was a really cool story arc for the main character. Anyway, so I love it for all that. I guess, again, just one of the best thrillers I've ever seen. I love the good drama and comedy mixture here, and the performances are really good. So, and the directing, I think, is phenomenal. Unfortunately, he hadn't made anything quite that good since. But yeah, so that's Signs at number 37. So last movie I'm going to talk about, number 36, another really popular movie that maybe might be up higher for a lot of people. And I love it. Just so many great movies to talk about. But it is Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people have this in top 10. I think Adam had this as Adam from What the Gym. I think put this number 1 on his list of favorite movie of all time. You have to remind me that, Adam, or it's really high up there. And this is considered the greatest Star Wars movie ever. Spoiler, I actually have one Star Wars movie ahead of this, higher on my list, which might be surprising for people, but it's funny. Empire Strikes Back, really good movie. Yeah, love it. But Return of the Jedi, spoilers, is higher on my list. And that's just because, and I'll get to why, I guess, when I get to that movie, but because there's a big conversation, what's better, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, or Return of the Jedi? Almost everybody consistently says Empire Strikes Back, which I totally get. It's a really good movie, but I feel a little more emotionally satisfied at the end of Return of the Jedi, I guess. That's why I put that a little higher. But still, this is, and it's a weird because this is the second between 3 movies, so you get, you're starting off from the first movie, but then you don't really get an ending to this movie. It's a to be continued, of course, and which could be a little frustrating, but yeah, they do a very good job here. And maybe it helps because I get to see all these movies after they're made, so I didn't have to wait for the 3rd movie. And this is made in 1980, I believe. But what can you say? I mean, everybody knows Star Wars. I think what I love about this movie so much, I love the introduction to Yoda. Yoda is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars. The whole Yoda, and he has so many great lines, do or do not, there is no try, There's so many great lines from Yoda. And then we get the whole spoiler alert, Darth Vader is Luke's father, so we get that whole storyline. That's so just such an iconic scene. I mean, what a great scene that is when he reveals that to Luke, and no, it's impossible, But yeah, I love the introduction of Yoda there. But also Han and Leia have you kind of start getting this romantic relationship between them. I think it's done very well in this movie. Unfortunately, they couldn't do that in Attack of the Clones. But in this movie, they do the romance very well. And them, they kind of fight a little bit, but then they're really attracted to each other, all that. And so I love that whole storyline with them trying to get away on the Millennium Falcon. So you have that storyline, and you have Luke on Dagobah with Yoda. So you got 2 really good storylines going all at once. And then the ending, what really gets me is that final fight scene between Luke and Vader. That's like the first really good Jedi lightsaber fight we've gotten. In the first movie, we really didn't. We got like a Obi-Wan versus Vader, but they did a really bad job with the choreography because I don't think George had figured out how to do the choreography yet. But he must have got someone really good because they have a really good lightsaber fight scene in this movie, and that's really great. I love the whole scene where him coming up from the floor, and it's dark, and you see Vader's red lightsaber, kind of light up the area, them facing off. Great, love the whole fight scene there, and then the revelation of Darth Vader as his father. Oh my gosh, yeah, all that is so great. And yeah, Star Wars is such. I love it for the sci-fi fantasy element. The storytelling, I think, again, very well paced, never a boring moment, great characters, you got some action, you got some comedy, you got a lot of great costumes and different alien characters and this whole world building. Yeah, it's all great. That's why it's up here at number 36 for me, Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. So, all right, that's my 6 movies for today for the 5 slots, and feel free to comment. What do you think about these movies? Are there some of your favorites too? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Besides that, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for liking it. Thank you to all my subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate y'all, and I hope you have a good day.